Welcome to Clayton Valley Presbyterian Church on this first Sunday after Christmas. I'm Kathleen, one of the teachers here, and I'm glad that you're at our story circle today. We come to the story circle in Godly Play from the sanctuary. Usually we've spent some time with Pastor Barbara before we get ready at the door, and a teacher will greet us one by one before we come to the circle. No matter who's telling the story on any particular Sunday, we always start the same way. The Lord be with you. We make ourselves ready at the circle, even if it's a story we've heard before, for what is in that story may be different for us today because we are different. So I invite you, even though parts of the story will be very well known to some of you, to listen to the part that's most important for you on this Sunday. This story is derived from the sacred stories, the stories from the Hebrew scriptures and the Greek scriptures that are on either side of me. And it also references one of the parables. But we're going to go here behind me to the stories of how we worship together to get to the basket about one of the people that's so central to this whole season that we're in. The season of preparation that we've just completed, Advent, and now the season that we're enjoying, Christmastide. Today's story is about the mother, Mary. All we need is this basket, but it's a lot of story. Let's get ready. This sky blue, it's one of the colors that's often associated with Mary. Sometimes you might see paintings from medieval times or from the Renaissance, and you'll see that Mary is wearing a blue veil, this color of blue. It's been associated with her for a long time. Mary was a girl from Galilee, and her people were people who told the stories of God's people. Those stories became part of Mary's story and how she created story. When she was just a teenager, Mary's parents betrothed her. They promised her in marriage to Joseph, who was a carpenter. That was the custom in that day, to arrange a marriage. Mary was excited. But before they could be married, something amazing happened. An angel came to Mary, and the angel said, you see that hand outstretched. The angel said what angels often say, don't be afraid. That messenger of God can be frightening. The angel said to Mary, I bring you good news, for you will have a child. His name will be Jesus, and he will be called Most High. Mary overcame her fright, but then she was terribly confused. How could I be having a baby? I'm not even married yet, she said. The angel said, this child will be of God, and you and Joseph shall raise this child who will change everything. Mary said, so be it. But then she wondered how she would explain this to her family and to Joseph. Not even married yet, and a baby was going to be coming? How would this happen? But then God sent an angel to Joseph in a dream and explained everything. And he explained it to the family. And they were married. And then you remember this part of the story probably well. You remember that Mary was very great with child when they took that long trip from Nazareth to Bethlehem, long if you're walking. And so sometimes Mary rode the donkey. But if you're expecting a child any day, riding a donkey's not very comfortable either. And when they got to Bethlehem, there was no inn to stay in, no rooms to rent. And so they had to go for shelter to a place where the animals were kept, a sort of stable. And they cleared out the feeding trough, the manger, and filled it with clean straw. And the baby was born. Mary felt her heart so full of love for this child. A few days after Jesus was born, Joseph and Mary went to the temple. That was the custom then, to go to the temple. And they brought a gift. They brought 2 doves. That was also a custom, to give thanks for this wonderful miracle in their lives, this gift of love, this child. And as they went toward the temple, there was an old man. When he saw Mary and Joseph holding that child, his face lit up. He said, "Now I can die in peace." And Mary said, Sir, what could you possibly mean?" And Simeon told Joseph and Mary that this was the child he'd been waiting for his whole life. This was the child who would change everything. But then he said something else. He told Mary that people would say terrible things about this child. They would want to hurt him. And that would pierce her heart as if with a sword. Mary never forgot what Simeon said, and that became part of her story too. Sometime after that, well, you know that's when the Magi arrived, right? The wise men who came from the east. Let's get them now. The 3 wise men. They were following a wild star. Wild because it wasn't behaving the way they knew stars should behave, for they were scientists. They believed that it might be leading them to something very important, and so they followed it. And they came and brought gifts to Jesus. But other people also knew the story about this star that might mean something very important. And one of them was King Herod. He thought it might mean that another king was coming. And he did not want to share being king. And so he sent soldiers to follow the Magi to Bethlehem. They warned Joseph and Mary. And when they returned to Persia, they went a different way. King Herod's army came searching for that child. But by that time, Mary and Joseph had left For the angel came and told Joseph where to go. They took the donkey, and Mary and the baby rode that donkey led by Joseph all the way to Egypt. And they stayed there until King Herod had died. When they came back, Jesus was a little boy, and he grew. And when he was about 12, his parents decided he was old enough to come with them to the temple in Jerusalem and celebrate the Passover. When they left, they were walking back to Nazareth. All the children were running and playing, and then Mary and Joseph realized that their son wasn't there, and they were frantic. They ran all the way back to Jerusalem, and they found him in the temple. And Mary said, "My son, what are you doing? Where have you been? Why did you do this?" And Jesus said, he was confused, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" His mother, Mary, did not understand, but she never forgot that, and that became part of her story as well. As Jesus became a man, people began to listen to him teach. They began to follow him. And one day, he was with his family, with Mary and with her other children. They were at a wedding in Cana. And in the middle of the celebration, they ran out of wine. And Mary said to Jesus, "Go and do something about this." And he said, "Mother, this is not the time." And she said to the servants, those who were serving all the guests at the wedding, "Go and do whatever my son tells you to do." So Jesus told the servants to fill 6 big jars with water. And they did it because they were following instructions from his mother Mary. And Jesus blessed that wine. It was no longer water. He sent it to the chief steward who was overseeing all the people serving the guests, and the steward said it was wine. And everyone wondered who he could really be. More and more people began to follow him, and Mary and her other children were among those followers. What Simeon had told her came true. People said terrible things. They wanted to hurt Jesus. And finally, of course, you know that part of the story. When Jesus died on the cross, his mother Mary was there with the other Mary. It must have been terrible for her. But then, after that, like other people, she was amazed and her heart was lifted to know that Jesus was still with them. And she, along with the other disciples, told the stories. A lot of what we know about the life of Jesus is from his mother, Mary. We remember her words from when the angel Gabriel came to her, and she was just a girl. My soul magnifies the Lord. Mary's Magnificat. And she continued to do that all of her days. People plant flowers in their gardens for her sometimes. These blue flowers, and they're called forget-me-nots. A lot of people associate them with Mary, who did not forget all the amazing and wonderful things that happened, and told that story so that now it's ours. So whatever part of this story is most about you, or most important to you, I hope it will remain with you now and in the days to come. May the Lord bless you and keep you.